Mr. Lasusa is going to be the speaker. NCEA is the club. I know a lot of you aren't signed up on the mailing list or whatever. So after the meeting, if you guys are interested more, we can figure out getting these on the mailing list so you keep updated with the different events going on, because we should have a lot more, especially leading into next year. So Mr. Lasusa manages a hedge fund. He and his partner Kevin Cottrell founded KCL Capital in 2017. KCL Capital is a fundamental long-short equity fund focused on the global technology, media, and telecom sectors. Chris is the portfolio manager and oversees all investment-related activity with specific responsibility for portfolio construction, risk management, and trading. Prior to founding KCL Capital in 2017, Chris spent 14 years at Point72 Asset Management, previously S.A.C. Capital Advisors, as a portfolio manager and sector head. Over his tenure, Chris made notable contributions in the areas of technology, best practices, and culture. Chris graduated magna cum laude from Baruch College with a Bachelor of Science in Accounting. For the past decade, Chris has been an avid participant and supporter of the East Side House Settlement, a non-profit organization working with schools, community centers, and other partners to bring quality education and resources to residents of the Bronx and Northern Manhattan. He currently serves as the board of managers. Chris and KCL Capital are also active with Filling in the Blanks, which aims to fight childhood hunger by providing children in need with meals on weekends. So I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Lasusa.
Save that till the end. Look, first of all, the fact that most of you gentlemen and a couple ladies, my mom and my daughter, are here are a great start to and a good sign of trying to be successful in life. And I'll do my best not to embarrass my daughter, and hopefully some of the things I say that are unpopular will be taken well. I've managed over 200 people over the years as a sector head, and I've seen many successful people and smart people succeed and fail. And so I have, I think, a unique perspective over the last 25 years. I'm 47 years old. I graduated from City College, as Lucas said, and I appreciate him having me here, right into a hedge fund. So the only job I've ever had is working at hedge funds. And I was at 3, and now I own my own for the last 6 years with my partner, Kevin Cottrell. He is in town as well. And so I'm just going to talk a lot less about hedge funds and finance and more about personality traits and psychological traits that successful people have had that I have been through experiences in life. And at the end, you're more than welcome. It's interactive. I'm very approachable. If you have any questions at any point during what I talk about, feel free. Lucas screwed up the mouse, so I gotta use this. I didn't come this far to only come this far. Tom Brady actually said that, but I'm a Jet fan and I can't bring myself to putting his name up there, so I wrote anonymous. As you come across people who are super successful in life and are exceptional at what they do, there's no destination. There's a constant drive to win, right? It's not about winning a Super Bowl. It's about winning in everything, every day. And when you come across people, whether they're doctors or finance or tennis players, there is a constant drive to win. And that is very rare. It's very rare to come across those people in life. You probably have, you probably know who that is, whether it's on a basketball team or a football team or in class. There are certain people who have a drive, and it's not about just getting to a destination. Your path in life continues for as long as you're around. And you're going to be disappointed if your goal is to get to a certain place and you get there and then you're disappointed. Special people feel like this all the time. They want to keep getting better and better and better and better at whatever they do. And it's often in many aspects of life, which I can go into. In my firm, there is one quote up, and it's the same quote I sent out when I resigned from my last firm, and that's from Theodore Roosevelt, popular or not with his downcomes. But it's about being in the arena, right? It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But those who do not strive to do the deeds, who know great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spend himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. You have to put yourself into a competitive landscape and enter an arena, right? This could be compared to gladiators, it could be compared to working hard in school, it could be compared to volleyball, it could be compared to Michael Jordan who wants the last shot. If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to own your own business, you have to be willing to take that shot. You have to be willing to fail. And you fail a lot, a ton. In my business, if you're right 60% of the time, you're a hero. That 40% is tough. And you have to have the constitution to stand in that arena and get bloody and get dirty and fight it out. And that's hard. You know, it's hard in a town like this. I'll go into it later, but you fellows and ladies have been given a privilege to be in a town where there's no crime, where I assume you have food and shelter. And these lessons often come out in sports or, you know, chess tournaments or competition. But there are many books, many podcasts written about this, grit, struggle. You need to teach, or if you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to learn how to do this. And there's not many people who can do this. And I have it on my lobby, so that people that work for me know every day that we're in the arena, and there's no shame in failing. And it is admirable just to get into that arena and try to compete with the best in the world. I work in a competitive industry. There's many competitive industries, but it's one of my favorite quotes. This is actually she said this on Oprah, believe it or not. But how you do anything is how you do everything. What you find when you meet people that are exceptional in any profession, they tend to be good at a lot of things, not one thing. And that has to do with their devotion to work ethic. And you'll find that people who might be good at finance or chess or backgammon or poker, they're good at everything. They may have, you know, I'm dyslexic, I can barely read, so there's things I'm bad at. I can't write well in terms of penmanship, but I'm good at lots of things. And you find that people in life that are exceptional at some things are usually not exceptional at one thing. And that has to do with the focus of and the drive competitively to be really good at lots of things because you hate losing, right? It's the quote from Moneyball, right? I hate losing more than I like winning, right? You're driven not to lose, and so you'll find people and your peers as you look around at each other, you will find certain people that tend to be good at lots of things, not just sports, maybe playing cards, maybe playing backgammon, maybe whatever your passion is, but they tend to do everything how they do anything, and I think that's important as a young person to reflect on when you think about people in your life that are successful. You don't generally get a billionaire that's 150 pounds overweight and doesn't do anything else good in life except finance. They tend to be good at almost everything they do, or at least they strive to be. So that's a quote I like. I don't want to criticize your generation. I only know the generation above you right now. But there's this fallacy of a work-life balance. It's absolute nonsense. Okay. It is important to be healthy. It is important to get sleep. It is important to, if you have a family, give your best. That being said, there's 168 hours in a week. The only thing in the world that can't be banked or saved is time. And you have to allocate your life to those 168 hours in a week. They can't be saved. They're gone. So you can choose to work 110 hours a week for 25 years like I do. That comes at a sacrifice. That comes at not playing golf 3 times a week. It comes at maybe not going out to happy hour with your friends when they're out. As you guys or girls and guys are applying for college, it's going to come down to not partying and spending that time for the work, for the achievement. But there is no balance. It's a complete trade-off. And so if you want to build something, and again, Elon Musk is on the 50th standard deviation of that, but if you want to be successful in whatever endeavor you take on, you have to be prepared that there's a trade-off there. And maybe your happiness, your free time, you're taking a nap, you're watching ESPN, that goes first, and hopefully the family comes last, but there is a sacrifice there between how much you have to pour into your destiny, your fantasy, your dreams of achieving what you want to do, because other people are going to do it, and life is a competition, and you're competing against a ton of other people, and they're going to put those 100 hours in, and they're going to sacrifice the drinking time and the partying time and the ESPN time and the nap time to achieve success. And if you don't, it's totally fine, right? There's another path in life where you're all going to choose your path. You may want to be a marine biologist. You may want to be a teacher. You may want to have a job that is 9 to 5-ish. That's going to come at the expense of the other side. And that's not better or worse. It's just different. So for those of you who have parents that are in finance or have a hedge fund or have some great, you guys obviously live in this town. Most of you probably, in order to live in town, have successful parents. They chose the work side, unless you guys inherited money. There is a trade-off there, and so you need to be aware of it and not resent the other side, because it's easy to resent the other side and say, wow, that person's golfing 3 times a week, I feel jealous. I would warn you against that. This is purely a choice, and I know that the school or potential people talk about you need to have a work-life balance. It's just a choice, period. Hard choice is easy life. Easy choice is hard life. I made my life a lot harder than it needed to be, because in 10th grade, my highest grade was a 68, and I was suspended 5 times. And it took me, I went to City College for $1,000 a year, and it took me a long time to catch up to my friends who went to Harvard and went to Duke, and they made hard choices early in life. And that led to an easier life going forward. And you guys are at the point, girls, are at a point where your hard choices now are going to lead to really easy choices later on. If you make easy choices now, your life's going to be really hard going forward. And so this has to do with delayed gratification, nothing you guys probably you people haven't heard of. But it's really important to recognize the longer time goes on and you make easy choices, the harder your life is going to become down the road. I can promise you that. This is our hedge fund. Kevin and me are up top. This has to do with the price of leadership, which I'll get into on the next slide. But the way a hedge fund's designed is, you know, Kev kind of runs research. I run the book. I run the risk. I make the decisions related to investments. And then you have a bunch of people under you. You have a trader, a data scientist, an analyst, research, so on and so forth. So you have 15 people. And those people depend on you every day. So when I wake up on Sunday mornings and I'm not coaching, I make a cup of coffee and I work 11 hours, at least. And I do that because all these people depend on me. And that is, that's a heavy burden. And it's easy to sit here at an entrepreneur club and say, I want to be the person, I want to be the guy, I want to be the girl, I want to be the guy taking the shot. That's awesome. That's a great goal to have. That being said, there is a price associated with that. The price associated with that is all these people depend on me to perform, right? Not just my family, but all these people. And when you think about how that breaks out, those are all the kids of the people that work for me, right? And all of those people depend on me to perform and for Kevin to perform. And when you have to fire people, that's not fun to think about those kids, to think about that person. And just like if you were the head of the Yankees and your second baseman's batting 150, you gotta replace him because we have to perform. And so those are tough decisions to make. Not necessarily tough, but painful. When you have to fire people and you think about the knock-on effects. And on top of the knock-on effects, like, you know, obviously it's compounding, right? They have a gardener, they go out to dinners, you guys understand trickle-down economics at this point, I assume. There's an incredible weight and responsibility if you want to be an entrepreneur, due to the number of people that end up depending on you. This is dealing with the struggle. This is how people think life works, right? Life's linear. We're going to get better every day. It's going to be a straight line. I'm going to start here and I'm going to end at the top and it's going to be awesome. That's not how life works. That's how life works. You have your highs, you then fail, you then have new highs, you fail if you're lucky. You then have new highs, you fail. And some people come down here and they fail and they stop. And the mindset you need to have is an infinite mindset, not a finite mindset. And you need to understand that every one of those down moves is a learning lesson. It's a opportunity to learn from how you screwed up or bad luck, and that's how you make a new high, by learning. And any of you that play sports know this, and any of you that have been around and observed people, you've seen people come down and not go back up. And it's incredibly important to take every one of those down moves and recognize that the worst feeling in the world that you might have at the time is actually potentially the best thing that could have ever happened to you, right? All the struggles I've had in my life have led me to be tough enough to make new highs. And you need to have that mindset if you want to be special an extreme performer. You know, Michael Jordan has the quote, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? I think he's missed 78 game-winning shots, right? And he's the best in the world. You're going to lose sometimes. You're going to struggle, and the world doesn't care that you're having a bad day, and you need to be tough enough to work through that and get better. This is an S-curve. You guys probably haven't taken a lot of economics yet, but you know, this is an S-curve. And this happens with almost every product that's ever been launched, including everything from the telephone to the radio, but it applies to life. You start out with a goal. It could be running a hedge fund. It could be trying to be an investment banker. It could be trying to learn how to play tennis. You go through this period of struggle, right? It's super frustrating, right? You suck, right? You hit the ball into the net, or you're trying to play golf and you're playing like shit. You'll edit that out, right, Lucas? Most people quit. 90% of the people quit here during the struggle. And that's the hardest part. And then you get into the S-curve, which is this up move, and it's extremely fulfilling. You're starting to be successful, you're getting better, you're learning, it's intriguing, it's super exciting. If you're doing it for a job, you're making more and more money. That tends to be 28 to 40 years old type thing. And that's incredibly rewarding. And then you get to a point where you've plateaued. And when you plateau, you get bored. It's not fulfilling. It becomes just everyday type stuff, and you tend to become unhappy. It's generally when people have a midlife crisis, or they quit their job, or they change something. And so it's important to cherish the middle of the S-curve. And also I would suggest that you think about creating as many S-curves in your life as possible. So my job is one of my S-curves. My family, my coach, maybe you have hobbies. You want to have as many S-curves in your life going as possible at any given time, so that you don't end up in a place where you're bored and you're not fulfilled. So there's no chart here. There's a famous YouTube called Equal Opportunity, Different Starting Lines. And I don't know if any of you have seen this, but it's a bunch of people lined up on a 100-yard dash. And there are different races from different towns. And it's essentially take 4 steps forward if you have 2 parents, right? Take 4 steps forward if your parents went to college. Take 5 steps forward if you're white. Take 6 steps forward if you are in a good high school. And you end up with these different starting points. And the lesson, then they all race, and of course, no matter how good the athlete is, the people with the biggest advantage in life that were given to them, you basically can't lose the race, right? You're 50 yards in front of the person behind you, so it's impossible. And it talks about, the message is we need to adjust the starting line to help people, right? To help, whether it's minorities or inner city, catch up, right? Which is, again, I'm not going to give an opinion on that, which I think is, reasonable. What I'd say is, since that video came out 10 years ago, something really changed, and that is they changed the finish line. Most of you coming from an affluent town, the tie's going to go against you 100%. If you have the same S.A.T, same grades as someone from Bridgeport or Buffalo, you're not getting that spot in college. You're not going to get that acceptance. if you apply for a job, and even reasonably, if I interview two people, and one is from New Canaan, and both parents are in finance at Goldman and Morgan Stanley, and I interview someone from Bridgeport, and their parents, one was a teacher and one was a janitor, and you have the same SATs and the same grades, I'm 100% giving the job to that person. Not to be politically correct, but because they went most likely through more adversity in life than the rest of you. And that person's gonna work harder, and that's the person I want. And so as you progress through your high school and applications, and you don't need to just win, you need to win by a lot. You need to win by a lot. And so you've been given, I'm sure as your parents tell you, this amazing opportunity because they got you, you're in New Canaan and you're privileged and all this stuff. You're also at a disadvantage because you need to crush the competition in order to get that slot at that college or get that slot at a job. And I would just say I would take very seriously the advantage you've been given, because the tide is going to go against you for the foreseeable future. You know, I'm not saying it's fair. I don't make the world, but I have to live in it, as my kids do. And that's kind of where we are right now in life. So that's kind of all I have to say. I'm happy to field any questions if anyone's brave enough, and answer any questions that are more geared to finance. I just wanted you to hear just the personality traits and psychological traits of successful people I've come across, and kind of how I've seen people navigate the world with regard to struggle and challenges. What do you got, Igor?
So, how did you go from that struggling part where you were making those easy choices to going to doing those 11 hours a day and working every single day and having that drive to succeed?
Yeah, I'd say you have to bottom. You know, I went through. My mom happens to be in the room. I went through a childhood where I had a split household. My dad wasn't the best in the world, to put it easily, and I think I grew up pretty angry. And in 10th grade, I went through a tough time, as I mentioned, and I got a job at a Gatorade and dairy warehouse, driving a forklift and delivering milk. And I remember being embarrassed. I went to work with people that clearly weren't as smart as me. Thankfully, I have good genes. My brother's a PhD, my sister is a speech pathologist, my mom is very smart. And I was squandering it, and I got upset with myself and embarrassed that I wasn't doing what I was capable of. And so I decided to actually apply myself, and the next year I got a 98 average and salvaged, you know, my way into a reasonable school. But I think that turning point was definitely realizing I was better off than most naturally, and I wasn't applying it, and I felt badly about it. You know, regardless of my grades, I've always been a leader. I was captain of 2 varsity sports. I was president of my school, and I was never the best athlete on my team, despite being captain. And so I knew I was capable of being a leader, and I was capable of doing better in school. And then once you realize, you know, I tell my team, the will exceeds the skill almost all the time. And if you have the will and you also have the skill, you can do a lot more. Good question.
What made you realize that this is what you wanted to do with your life?
One of the reasons I was suspended in 10th grade was gambling, and I love games. I love poker. I love backgammon, Scrabble. I mean, you name it. Darts, shuffleboard. I like competing, and the stock market has a scoreboard every day. You know if you win, you know if you lose. At one of the hedge funds I worked at, they would put up the top 50 people every day, top 50 people on the year every day, and it's competition. And so I like knowing that if I perform, I'm gonna get paid or get appreciated or get recognized. And so unlike blackjack or other games of chance, on Wall Street, you can stack the odds in your favor legally by outworking people. And so by me having a 15-person team and hiring a data scientist, I can appropriately stack the odds in my favor to win. And so that's fun for me.
How do you pick the work over life and the balance that you're talking about? How does that affect like relationships outside of work?
Terribly. Yeah. No, you end up having less acquaintances. You end up having more close friends. So, call it 6 to 8 friends instead of different people. I have 50 friends. Like, I'm never gonna have a 50th birthday party with 200 people, right? I'm gonna go out to dinner with 6 people or 6 couples. So I self-select that. I try to keep a good relationship with my family, with my kids. That suffers sometimes because I work on it a lot, but it's a trade-off, and the trade-off is they have a certain lifestyle, and hopefully they respect my work ethic, and that's a positive. And then you have to make time for yourself. You gotta work on yourself mentally. You have to exercise. You gotta try to combine your golf rounds with business so you get a little of both. But no, it's not easy. My thought process was always, I'm gonna put my time in from age 24 to 40 something, and then I'm gonna have enough success where I can do what I want. And that's kind of that was kind of my plan in terms of that. And I look at my friends and I look at my peers, and I wouldn't trade spots with them. Lucas?
We spoke just outside about like what you lost today and sort of like daily adversities, and I think that was like probably a good point to like bring up collectively to people and like how you face like daily adversities and how like what the scale is you think of, because I think a lot of people like face challenges and then like how do you overcome that, how do you move on, and like that kind of mindset.
Yeah, I mean, these are going to be hypothetical numbers because I'm not going to put this on YouTube. But if you run $1 billion, your value at risk, your VAR, so how much you make or lose a day, is somewhere between $3 and $6 million on an average day. Hedge funds generally are 20% economics, so it is easy to get caught up mentally if you have a down $6 million day to say I just lost $1.2 million for my team, right? Our team. And you can't think like that and stay sane, right? Like you play $20 blackjack and you could get emotional thinking about how much money you make or lose on a daily basis could drive you insane. To put it in context, I broke the record at my last hedge fund, losing $55 million in 40 seconds. That was a stinger at age 28. can't think about that. You gotta think about what's the next hand, what's the probability adjusted move, and you have to think about how much money you're gonna make over 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, while risk managing. You could always miss a shot in tennis. You could always hit a guy by mistake in baseball, or hit one into the net in volleyball. You gotta move on and look at the next pitch, the next move. But I do think it takes a certain type of person to not break or panic during periods like that, because as we mentioned, those ups and downs, you're gonna have those downs. And it's not, Kevin Durant's MVP speech, right? It's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up. And I think that's what builds character, and that's what builds the type of personality that can be a high achiever in life.
Like what job were you in before you found your hedge fund?
So I was in college, majoring in accounting and finance and psychology as a third. And my last class, because I was trading since 10th grade, was advanced investment analysis, which I just took as a joke because I knew I'd get an A, because I was trading from 10th grade. And in that class I met my wife, and the teacher in that class worked for a hedge fund. And so he hired me in '98, way before you guys were born. And so I went right to a hedge fund in 1998, and from there I went from hedge fund to hedge fund to hedge fund. So I was at 3, and now I have my own. I'll tell you, my first hedge fund, the job offer was to be a programmer in a quant, and I didn't know how to program, so I bought a book, and I taught myself how to program. I got to the job, and I was working with 2 guys from MIT and a guy from Harvard, and I realized I was screwed because they were 50 IQ points smarter than me and had better skill sets. And so I wanted to be a trader because that's what I was doing from 10th grade. And I started working, I went to the European trader, and so I started working from 1 a.m. till 9 a.m. for free to learn. And then I worked my normal shift. And I did that for 18 months. And so I would go in as my friends who were coming home from bars in the East Village, and I would work for free from 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. And I learned how to trade. And from there, I jumped from being a trader to another hedge fund where I was a trader. And so I can tell you that in order to get where you want to go in life, sometimes you have to make major sacrifices. That wasn't fun, obviously.
Yeah.
But again, work-life trade-off imbalance, is how you get it.
All right.
Anyone else? Board is adjourned.
I guess so. No one else got anything to ask?
What do you think life would have been like if you went down the other path instead of work?
I'd be dead. No, I think I'd be a bartender, or, I mean, I'm not equipped to do lots of things in life. I'm a great coach. I could be a teacher and I could coach. Maybe that's my next chapter in life. Yeah, I think life is really fragile, guys, and it's very easy to go down the wrong path. I have a lot of friends who are not in a good spot right now, not just high school friends, but friends in town. It's really easy to derail, and it's important to keep your eyes on kind of what's important. You should have your goals in life. You should check on them often. You should have guardrails around you. You should have people around you that tell you, like, hey, you seem off. Hey, are you okay? Because there's too many people I've seen that have veered off in the wrong direction. So I don't know where I'd be, but I'd say that on those up and down moves over the course of my life, I've come close to falling and not coming back. So it's really important to keep yourself in check, keep people around you that care about you, and keep a good group of company. That's probably the most important thing that I haven't thought of that should be in this presentation. The people you keep around you are incredibly important. The people I've seen derail have kept low quality people that are dangerous around them, and you got to avoid that. You know, one of the things in my firm that everyone benefits from is just being in the room, just having the conversation every day about ChatGPT, about AI, about the world. It really compounds itself in terms of knowledge and intellectual stimulation. When you surround yourself with losers, it is dragging down. And so I think it's like insanely good.
How did you know that the job that you did for free from 1 to 9 a.m., how did you know that like you weren't wasting your time or that it was the right thing to do?
I didn't. I knew that my downside was I got 8 hours less sleep, and my upside was I learned a great skill set. The only pay I got was he bought me breakfast, but I didn't. Entrepreneurs, risk takers, super successful people, they dare to take risks and sacrifice more than others. That's the risk reward, right? You're willing to take that risk. What's the worst that was going to happen to me? I don't go out drinking with my friends till midnight, and like I learned how to trade Europe. So to me, the upside downside was easy. And I enjoyed doing it. You know, I think one slide I took out of here, it's extremely important for all of you to be driven by something that's not money, right? You live in a town where there's a lot of money. It's easy to say, I want to be rich. It's easy to say, I'm going to go into finance. If you do it for the money, you're going to fail, 100%. You may get a job and make a living, you're going to be miserable. You have to be driven by something more than money. And for me, that's winning. For me, that's competition. For me, I super enjoy building a team. I super enjoy having 15 employees and mentoring them, some not much older than you guys. And you have to love it because you can't work 80 to 100 and something hours a week and hate your job. Like, I would encourage you to go to the train station at 7 o'clock on any Wednesday or Thursday and watch the guys getting off the train and see their faces and how miserable 80% of them are. And you don't want to be that guy. Like, you want to be that person. You spend a lot of time, you want to enjoy it. Because there's lots of paths in life. You don't have to go be a Wall Street guy. You can be a teacher, you can be a pediatrician, you can be anything. But you don't want to waste your life being miserable to make some money. It's not a good plan, and it's not going to work for you.
How do you recommend finding a job that you have passion for?
What's your passion? You don't know?
No.
You have to find your passion. And that comes over time. For me, I was lucky. I found my passion in 10th grade. But your passion will come to you and you have time. And then once you find what your passion is, you go after it like a maniac, right? Like, you know, you go and say, I'll work for free. Like, I will do anything because this is my passion. I love it. Right? And that's how I've seen the most successful people in my industries succeed. Is once you find something, you know, my mom told me when I was 10. Find something you love and be the best at it, and you're never going to be unhappy. And so that's what I would tell you guys. And also, you're at a point where there's a ton of resources in this town to get an internship, to get exposure, to say like, wow, I hate this, wow, I love this, wow, this is kind of like okay. And because you're in this room shows that you actually have more drive than the other. How many people are in school? 4,000, whatever, 2,000, 1,000? And there's 22 of you in here, less than 4 that left. So you're in the 1% already because you're here. So if you actually care, seek a mentor. I think that's one of the most important things in life is someone outside of your parents needs to take an active role in trying to help you. And so you can seek that out yourself, or it could happen naturally. Maybe it's a coach, maybe it's a friend's dad, but there's a lot of opportunities in town. And from probably your parents or your parents' friends, and try to get that exposure as fast as possible. Be like, I don't want to do that. Right? My son came to me, he's 20 now, and he said, I do not want to do what you do. so like that's okay. Go do something else. But find that passion and go after it. That's what I'd say. The one thing in society right now is there's way too many victims. I find it sad. Your life is yours. It's not your parents' life. It's not anyone else's life. Your path is determined by you. And it's all on you. It's not on anyone else. So you have all the opportunity in the world. It's yours for the taking. It's your race to lose. And it's just a matter of thinking about it and then working and executing. Because there's no excuse why you can't achieve your passion and achieve success in whatever way you want.
How do you think your work ethic has changed being like a high pressure industry like finance?
My work ethic?
Yeah.
I work 13 hours on Sunday. I'm an animal, so I hate losing. If I fail, it won't be for lack of effort. Me and my teams over the years have made $1.4 billion. I have 3 down years, 1%, 1%, 5%. And I hate losing. I don't care what it is. And so my work ethic's not changing anytime soon. And if it does, I'll just stop working. And I'll find something else to compete in. I'll start reading up on bridge or some card game I don't know. But I don't think work ethic changes over time. I think that you develop a work ethic by the time you're 16 and it doesn't go away. You may get tired and just say, I'm not going to do it anymore. But in all the years I've coached, I've never seen someone with great work ethic turn into no work ethic. And I've never seen anyone with no work ethic turn into amazing work ethic. That personality trait is ingrained in you at some point before the age of 16, 17. But again, that comes down to my statement of not being driven by money. If you're driven by money and you hit your number, right, I have enough money, someone says, then your work ethic can collapse. But if you're not driven by, money, you end up diving for a ball in pickle court, pickleball, and cutting your arm open because there's a loose ball, and then your son says, "Are you out of your mind?" And you're like, "I'm playing to win." So I think that's kind of ingrained in me.
Have you ever mentored anyone? And if you have, what made you pick that specific person? Like, what stood out to you?
Yeah. Yeah, I've mentored more people than I can count. They have to want to learn, right? They have to be humble. the first two questions I ask on every job interview are, what do your parents do? And the second one is, have you ever been punched in the face before? Assuming I'm interviewing a boy, a guy. And that teaches you grit and where you came from. And I'm a teacher by nature. My mom was a teacher, my dad's a teacher, my aunt's a teacher, my uncle's a teacher, so on and so forth. I like teaching people. It's why people come to work with us. My partner's a teacher also. And so I think anyone that is hardworking and wants to be taught should be taught. And so yeah, I've mentored tons of people.
How do you not burn out?
By water. I burn out at times. You get tired. Last year I took 6 days off. That was tough. There are times you have to step up and be a leader for your family, for your firm. But yeah, you burn out. It's hard. It's a lot of miles on a car. But if you love what you do, you keep going, right? You look at Tom Brady, right? And what is he doing, right? Like, why did you play for the last 2 years? You won a Super Bowl and then you blew your life up. So I think there's a time to hang it up. I don't think I'm there yet. And I love what I do, and I wake up early and I work a lot. But yeah, I think that's a heavy risk for a lot of people, but everyone has their breaking point. So it's a balance.
You mentioned like a lot about like the change finish lines, and also like even just then, what do your parents do for a living? Like, how would you recommend setting yourself apart from the crowd, especially in like an affluent town like this? Because not just you, but I've heard like a lot speaking to other people are saying like, I'm looking at the college you studied, and if you're Ivy League, which is obviously what a lot of people kind of aspire to be, you're going to just get instant rejected, and that's kind of like contrary to what most people would believe. So like, can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I think the Ivies have a 6% acceptance rate of white males last year, and 90% of those were athletes. So yeah, as I said, the odds are stacked against almost all of you, just because of the town you're from. I think Boston College let in 24 people 2 years ago, and they let in 0 from New Canaan last year. So the world is right-sizing DEI, which I'm sure you know what it stands for. And I'm not positing an opinion on that. It just is. And so I think you need to stand out. You need to do community work. You need to do things like this. You need to be, head of on the investment club if that's what you want to do in life. Intern at a hospital if you want to be a nurse or a doctor. I think you need to make a statement that you're not an average New Canaan student, which frankly, average New Canaan student is probably better than 90% of the students in the country. But I think that anything you can do to differentiate yourself, charity-wise, public service-wise, outside curriculum-wise, to build your resume up, having an art portfolio, whatever. Anything you can do to make yourself different is going to help. But you can't change what your parents do for a living. Yeah. So you're born a hand, and you got to play it. And your hand's really good, guys. I mean, you're in one of the best towns in the country, with one of the best school districts in the country, with a huge opportunity in front of you. It's just a little bit harder than it was a few years ago, because of that finish line. And you should be super optimistic if you execute on it. But if you don't, you're gonna be at a disadvantage. Who hasn't spoken? Good? You?
Yeah.
Oh, Alex, there you go.
So I know you talked a little bit about weighting risk and reward and work ethic, but what is one of the most prominent skills you've learned throughout your years that's helped you the most, like throughout, like any aspect of your life, especially work?
Alex, my hardest question. When I left my last firm, it was very emotional for me. One of the things I learned in life was treating my boss, who's a billionaire, who I'm sure you've Googled me, owns the Mets, and I treated him the same as I treated the girl who made coffee in the morning and Franzi who got supplies. It's extremely important to remember, and I used this in a previous speech at a bigger event, too many people were born on third and think they had a triple. All right, you guys haven't done shit in life yet. You're here because your parents moved to New Canaan, and I'm proud that you're all here trying to get better. But not everyone has that opportunity. And when I think about how I judge people, I judge them as, are you the best version that you could have been, given your starting point? And too many people treat people badly. They treat them like they're beneath them, so on and so forth. And what you need to understand is we're all dealt different hands. And you need to appreciate the fact that there's people who are doing the best they can, and they may not be at the same point as you or as someone else, but you treat them fairly. Treat them like they should be treated. And there's some bad people out there who shouldn't be treated well. But it's extremely important to stay grounded in the fact that we all kind of hit the lottery with regard to where we live in the world. I don't think any of us would want to be living in this sedan right now. And so we're incredibly fortunate, and you should all be grateful, and you know, what is E-School's mantra? To be kind?
Work hard and be kind.
Work hard and be kind. Like, that's an important message to live life through. That's not to say you shouldn't be competitive. It's not to say you shouldn't have disdain for your opponent. But be kind and respect that everyone is trying to be the best they can be. And if they aren't, then you don't have to respect them. But you should treat the waiter the same way you treat the owner, and you should treat the janitor the same way you treat the boss. We're all people.
Done, unless anyone has any final questions for us.
Look, I think you guys have a great future. I appreciate you letting me speak here today. And, thank you.
Okay, so I guess that's gonna, I'm not gonna read it. Yeah, if you want to talk, if you have any individual questions, maybe you come and ask. And if you're interested